Live from the studios of NBC 12 and ABC 25, Good Morning Jacksonville continues.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us on this rainy Saturday morning. I'm Shelby Danielsen.
And I'm meteorologist Lauren Rautenkranz here with your forecast this morning.
Full first weekend.
Yes, so excited to
Already
be here.
dealing with a tropical wave.
I know. Can you believe it?
We're going to have more from the weather coming up.
That's right.
Alrighty. Well, first, let's get to your top stories really quick. A controversial pastor on the First Coast is behind bars this morning for child molestation charges. 56-year-old Kenneth Adkins turned himself in Friday morning. Georgia investigators say he molested a child under the age of 16 multiple times, now including inside of a car, the victim's home, and at the church. The FDA is now calling on blood banks in the U.S. to begin screening for the Zika virus in order to help stop the spread of that mosquito-borne disease. Until now, the government only required 2 Florida counties and Puerto Rico to test for the virus. Zika is primarily spread through mosquitoes and sexual contact, as we know, but Brazil reports cases of it being spread through blood transfusions. Now, right now, there are 42 cases spread by mosquitoes in Florida and 545 travel-related cases. Now, this morning, we are tracking the tropics, as I said, of that storm system expected to bring heavy rains to Florida and even bigger rip currents on the First Coast. To tell us more about it and how it will impact us, Lauren Rautenkranz.
Thanks, Shelby. Good morning to everyone joining us on Good Morning Jacksonville. We are tracking this area of interest here in the Caribbean Sea, and computer models do take it in the Gulf of Mexico, so that's why we're keeping close eye on it here, because the Florida Peninsula going to be impacted by it. Now, South Florida, the Florida Keys, even the Bahamas going to be seeing increasing storm chances this weekend. For us here on the First Coast, we'll begin to see those storm chances rise early next week. Now, for now, we are really being impacted by the swell that is being churned up from Tropical Storm Gaston, and that is actually going to stay out to sea, but look at how far away from us it is. Still seeing an increased rip current from that, as well as that high pressure system that's around the area. We'll have more on that in your 7-day forecast coming up, Shelby.
All right, Lauren, thank you. Now, though Tropical Storm Gaston isn't heading our way, it's likely to cause dangerous rip current conditions at our beaches this weekend. So remember to check those flags to know the conditions. 1 red flag means serious hazards. Use extreme caution. 2 red flags means it's too dangerous. You cannot go in the water. If you see a yellow flag, it's a high surf or dangerous currents, so only swim near lifeguards. Now, a green flag indicates the threat level is low and it is safe to swim. If you do find yourself caught in a rip current, stay calm, swim parallel to escape, of course, on the shore. If you see someone struggling, call a lifeguard. Now, don't forget, for the latest on what's going on in the tropics, be sure to head to firstcoastnews.com. Click on the Hurricane Central section under that weather tab. You'll find an interactive radar with the latest tracks, a live blog there with the latest, and how to prepare for a storm. Now, new this morning, a man is dead after being found shot in Moncrief Park in a neighborhood there overnight. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office says they responded to a call around the 1900 block on Erline Drive at 11. When they arrived, they found a black man in his mid-20s just dead on the side of the road. Police say the victim died from gunshot wounds, but right now there's no motive or suspect information. Stay with First Coast News as this story develops. Now, also developing this morning, a controversial pastor on the First Coast behind bars for child molestation charges. As we mentioned earlier, Kenneth Adkins turned himself in Friday morning. Georgia investigators say he molested a child under the age of 16 on multiple occasions, including inside a car, the victim's home, and at the church. Adkins' wife, Charlotte, told us she is disappointed in a, quote, rush to judgment by law enforcement in this case, and that the accuser is a troubled young man.
The young man was part of our teen ministry. We loved him as part of our church family. He is a deeply troubled young man, to be sure. Our prayers and our thoughts go out to him and remain with him even now.
Adkins' wife says she's taking over her husband's pastor position at the Greater Church. Adkins is now on unpaid leave. His first court appearance is Monday. Around the state in Orlando, there won't be any hospital bills for the survivors of the Orlando nightclub shooting. Orlando Health just announced it's not seeking reimbursement for medical procedures done for the survivors of the attack that killed 49 people and injured more than 50 others back in June. It's a way to help them out. Now, for those with insurance, the hospital says it's going to cover the costs their providers can't. Right now, Orlando Health expects to write off more than $5 million. And it's a big win and a huge ruling for parents who choose to have their kids opt out of the Florida Standards Assessment Test, or FSA. A judge just ruled that school districts can't hold back students based on that test alone. They have to consider other factors like classroom grades and teacher assignments. Now, in the past, students without any reading deficiencies got held back because they didn't take the test. In Clay County, authorities suspended the search for a missing man. Search and rescue crews searched more than 200 acres looking for 79-year-old Hal Worth. He went missing last Monday. The Clay County Sheriff's Office says it encountered snakes and poisonous animals during that search, but still no sign of Worth. Right now, they don't know what happened to him and will be treating his case as a missing persons investigation. Now, right now, the traffic lights at the intersections of Bay Meadows Road and Southside Boulevard are back up and running. Thank goodness I live there, and I know how chaotic this could be following a single vehicle incident there. JSO says the driver of an SUV lost control, crashed into the transformer that runs the lights there. JEA spent hours fixing it all day yesterday. Drivers should expect normal traffic flow today. Now, a huge multi-million-dollar addition to Riverside opens its doors to the community for the first time today. While the ribbon-cutting ceremony was held yesterday, doors to the new YMCA officially won't open until this morning. It's open right now if you can go over there and check it out. Now, it sits right across the street from its older version, which dated back to the 1950s.
The Winston Y is now sitting on the old external track outdoors, and we have our third floor as an indoor walking/running track, so that way you can beat the heat and come out of the Florida sun and get your workout upstairs on the track inside.
It's amazing in there, let me tell you. Now, the Winston YMCA, the new one you're seeing right there, will offer new classes, new equipment, and as you're running, it will offer a perfect view of the St. Johns River. Now, a local group of women are going door to door today. We'll tell you more about how they are raising awareness to a very important health issue on the First Coast. Plus,
the high school football season made its return.
Live from the studios of NBC 12 and ABC 25, Good Morning Jacksonville continues.
Good morning. Thanks for waking up with us on Good Morning Jacksonville. I'm Shelby Danielsen.
And I'm Lauren Routon-Kranz here with your forecast.
And let's get right to your top stories this morning. A controversial pastor on the First Coast is behind bars this morning for child molestation charges. 56-year-old Kenneth Atkins turned himself in Friday morning. Georgia investigators say he molested a child under the age of 16 on multiple occasions, including inside of a car, the victim's home, and at the church. Now, in Italy, the death toll is now up to 290 people after a 6.2 magnitude earthquake struck the central part of the country there. Now, a mass burial is happening today for 35 victims. The Italian government also declared today a day of national mourning. Now, this morning we are tracking the tropics as storm systems are expected to bring heavy rain to Florida, while the First Coast already seeing some rip currents and higher surf from tropical storms out at sea. To tell us about it, of course, and the impact we'll have at home, Lauren Routon-Kranz and the Weather Center.
Hey, good morning to you, Shelby. You know what? It is going to be a nice weekend, and we aren't really expected to see direct impacts from Invest 99L, but we are still keeping a close eye on it because downpours are expected to increase early next week. For this weekend, we aren't going to see any rain from this system. It's well to our south, but places like the Florida Keys, the Bahamas, and southern Florida, they can expect those rain chances to increase and really ramp up later this weekend. What is impacting us, though, is Tropical Storm Gaston. It's bringing quite a bit of swell to northeast Florida, and believe it or not, it's bringing those waves for the surfers, although it is well out to sea and expected to stay well out to sea in the coming days. Going to be a Category 2 hurricane by Monday. We're seeing some coastal showers roll in this morning, and some of them crossing over the I-95 corridor. As we head into the afternoon hours, they'll spread inland, Shelby, so I'll show you that future cast coming up.
All right, Lauren, thank you. You heard her. Although Tropical Storm Gaston isn't directly heading our way, we will see dangerous rip current conditions at our beaches this weekend. So remember to check the flags to know the conditions. 1 red flag means serious hazards, use extreme caution, and 2 red flags means it's too dangerous. You can't go in the water. So if you see a yellow flag, it's high surf, dangerous rip currents, so only swim near lifeguards. A green flag indicates the threat level is low and it's safe to swim. And if you ever do find yourself caught in a rip current, you can't stress this enough. Of course, stay calm, swim parallel to the shore to escape. If you see someone struggling, call a lifeguard. Now, don't forget, for the latest on what's going on out in the tropics, be sure to go to firstcoastnews.com. Click on that Hurricane Central section. Under the weather tab, you'll find an interactive radar with the latest tracks, a live blog with the latest, and how to prepare for a storm as well. Now, new this morning, a man is dead after being found shot in the Moncrief Park neighborhood overnight. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office says they responded to a call around the 1900 block of Erline Drive at 11. Now, when they arrived, they found a black man in his mid-20s dead on the side of the road. Police say the victim died from gunshot wounds, and right now there's no motive or suspect information at this time. Now, stay with First Coast News as this story will develop. And parts of I-95 were shut down after a deadly crash this morning. It happened around 1:20 on the northbound lane near San Marco Boulevard, near the exit there. The Florida Highway Patrol says one person died in that crash. There's still no word on how it happened or if other vehicles were involved.
It's not about the LGBT community that you have to be concerned about. It's the child molester. And if he's guilty, he should be punished accordingly.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, a controversial pastor on the First Coast behind bars for child molestation charges. Kenneth Adkins turned himself in on Friday morning. Now, Georgia investigators say he molested a child under the age of 16 multiple times, including inside of a car, at the victim's home, and at the church. Now, Adkins is known for his outspoken views and controversial social media posts, especially on the LGBT community. He's been picked, though, by Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry's administration to help moderate discussion on whether or not to extend that human rights ordinance to include specific rights for the city's LGBT community. Now, on your side, Ken Amaro digs deeper into Adkins' past.
Bishop Ken Adkins is a man with many faces, often making fun of the LGBT community.
I got this one.
Shortly after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Adkins took to Twitter and wrote, "Homosexuals got what they deserved."
I still don't trust him, and I trust the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
During Jacksonville's effort to expand the human rights ordinance, Adkins made Councilman Tommy Hazouri a target of his rants against the HRO.
He has a right to freedom of speech, but he came this close, if I hadn't withdrawn the bill, to being sued for slander.
The pastor painted Hazouri in a negative light with his scathing tweets.
The texts that he sent out and his caricatures that he would do and put across, not just about me, but mostly about me, and in the bathrooms and this kind of thing. Very contradictory of what he's been accused of today.
Hazouri says Adkins was not as influential as he thought. For now, he's reserving judgment.
It's extremely scary and disappointing, especially knowing how much publicity he's gotten over the last years.
Adkins' PR firm opened employment opportunities with a number of politicians and business owners.
So I represented him in a personal injury matter.
But attorney Rick Block would soon sever his relationship with Adkins. He says it was in the best interest of both parties.
I have a son who's gay, and he was so vehement about his beliefs that I didn't really know if he would want me as his lawyer.
The charges against the Brunswick pastor surprised him.
Again, I believe everybody. Did you say against a boy?
Yes. Block says he's reserving judgment on Adkins' guilt or innocence.
I don't know if these allegations are true or not. I found out about them through the media. It's, you know, there's an old saying that people in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones.
Thank you, Ken. That was Ken Amaro reporting there. Now, Mayor Lenny Curry is speaking out about Adkins' charges, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "I know nothing more about the allegations than what has been reported in the news, but it sickens me. If he has been found to have done what he stands accused of, he deserves the fullest punishment the law allows." Now, everyone is safe this morning after a brief scare at a high school football game. It happened last night at Raines High School on the north side. We are told that folks took off running after hearing a loud noise. Raines and Lee High School players were also ordered to hit the ground for safety. The delay didn't last long. The district says no gunfire went off, but that the noise came from a grill falling. The game continued shortly after. Now, a new poll of likely voters in Duval County increasing support for Mayor Lenny Curry's pension tax referendum. Now, among 670 voters randomly asked by telephone, here is how they answered to that. 51% say they support it, 32% are against it, 18% undecided. Now, if approved, the pension plan will extend a half-cent sales tax in hopes to help fund the city's pension debt. Now, in the race for the White House, Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton may be holding a slight 2% lead over her Republican rival Donald Trump in the Sunshine State. But when it comes to northern Florida voters, they are still standing with, quote, the Donald. Now, in a new poll by Mason-Dixon Polling and Research, Trump has a very strong lead over Clinton, 52 to 33%. The poll also found that more independents in Florida supporting Trump with 44% of the vote. Now, back on the First Coast, early voting ends in most counties today. Now, they include Baker, Putnam, Clay, Nassau, St. Johns, and Columbia counties. Bradford County and Duvaldo will extend until tomorrow. And next Tuesday, if you can believe it, already Election Day, you can count on First Coast News as your go-to source for the election. We will have live coverage on all the races next Tuesday at 7. You can also see all of the results online at firstcoastnews.com. Now, Florida Senator Marco Rubio is making a stop to the River City today. He's planning to attend a grand opening of the Jacksonville Republican Party of Florida's regional volunteer headquarters. He'll be there to talk more with his constituents and volunteers. It's happening on Beach Boulevard, the location on your screen right now. Anyone is welcome to attend. It starts at 12:30, but you must register first. Now, here's a statistic I want you to think about. Studies show that African American women are nearly 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than other women. So why is that? Experts say some of it has to do with the environmental factors like obesity rates and access to health care. First Coast News' Lisa Robbins caught up with one local nonprofit that's making it their mission to change this.
As of July the 11th this year, I'm a one-year breast cancer survivor.
75-year-old Emmy Pollard says she is feeling great these days following a breast cancer diagnosis in 2015. She says during her treatments, the women in this room stood by her side, making sure she never missed a radiation appointment.
They took me every day, and I had to go 5 days a week for 6 weeks. So, you know, this is a good support group.
A support group she'd been volunteering with for nearly 2 decades before she found out she needed the support herself.
Everybody don't know everything, and I surely don't know a whole lot, but I would like to know that there's somebody out there that's watching over me.
The women in this room belong to the Sisters Network of Northeast Florida, part of the only national African American breast cancer survivor organization in the country. And they're stuffing these pink bags for a very good reason. They're getting ready for their 10th annual Gifts for Life block walk. The 5K event will weave around these north side neighborhoods, which the city has identified as belonging to Health Zone 1. Here, poverty levels are the highest and life expectancy rates are the shortest in the county. These are neighborhoods where access to health care and even information can be the difference between life and death.
Early detection, early treatment can save your life.
Chapter President Diane Townsend is a 5-time breast cancer survivor, and she has made a lot of friends since she started this chapter 19 years ago. She says she wants women to know there is help for those who need it.
When they need to see someone who needs to see a face of hope, who needs to have someone walk with them through their journey.
And they're going to keep walking every single year until they feel like their job is done. In Jacksonville, Lisa Robbins, First Coast News.
Amazing. Thank you, Lisa. Now stick around, catching up with those women raising awareness about breast cancer coming up. But first, we want you to know plenty of fun events happening around the First Coast. Patty Jacks is joining us live in the studio to tell us the top events you should look out for. Plus,